Well, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth, and it's great to be with you today. And I'm your host, John Craig, and I am the pastor, along with my wife, at Life of Worship Ministries here in Amarillo, Texas, and where we would love to have you join us. If you're in town, come by and be part, or if you're not in town, you can join us online at Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel, and you can pick up the Torah portion at noon Central Time, where we go for a couple hours. We have a midrash, we have online midrashing going on as well, and then we take an hour break, come back for our encounter service at 3 p.m. Central Time, where we have a time of praise and worship and a message separated in a second stream. We do that for a number of reasons, but we would love for you to be part of this ministry and be part of the things that we've been talking about. In fact, these last few messages on Shabbat that we've been doing in the encounter service have to do with healing. So if you are like, what does the Bible say about healing? And you want more information on that, we have it there. You go to our Life of Worship Ministries YouTube channel and catch our messages for the encounter service for the last 3 weeks. Should be the last 3 weeks. We did skip a week when we were actually, well, we took a week off. So there's 2 weeks in between that we were off, but you can go back into December and catch those archives and dig into that. We hope it'll be amazing for you, especially if as many people are out there and they're dealing with health issues. Well, what does the Bible say about that? What does what what does the word say? And don't we need that? Because whose report shall we believe? We shall believe the report of Yahweh. So anyway, that's just a little tidbit of what's been going on here at Life of Worship, and we'd love for you to come join us. Also, if you'd like to partner with us financially at Life of Worship Ministries, you can go to our website at www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. You can click on the donate tab, and from there, you're able to donate online. You can also just be a prayer partner with us. And we certainly appreciate everybody that's joined together and have helped us in this ministry to help us with all the different expenses that we continue to have. And we'd love for you to be part. And give a shout out there on our website. You can also get our mailing address if you'd prefer to mail a love gift or a tithe or an offering or anything of the above. Or if you want to reach out, shout out, say hi. And our email address is there as well. So with that said, I want to say shalom to those that have joined me in the chat room so far. I see Eddie and Tammy and Terry in there, and it's great to see you guys. We're praying for Eddie and the medical device that they were going to be implanting on Friday. Yeah, that's coming up. So peace and shalom to rest upon him as he prepares for that, and it'll be a good thing. Eddie is going to be full of life and energy once it's done. Amen. So, yes, Terry, the word tells us we're healed, and we need to know that because there's so many bad teachings out there that actually don't give any credence to the healing of Yahweh. And how does healing come? And so, is it for us today? And is it supernatural and immediate, or is it progressive or whatever? And I say yes, because we talked about all those different things. So, all right. Well, are you ready to get into Jubilees? We've been going through Jubilees. You can go back all the way back into our archives and pick it up from the very beginning if you like, where we've been just taking it like an adventure. And like any other type of adventure, what do? One step at a time. And I think we had ventured all the way to chapter 14. I appreciate you all sticking with us, coming back today, because I know we were out last week. It was unavoidable, and but we're back this week. We'll be, y'all willing, we'll be back next week as well. The following week, so mark your calendars. We'll have an archive in there, and that will be the February the 3rd. Y'all be praying about this because my mother's going to be having some major surgery done. She's 85, and my wife and I are going to go to Houston to spend some time with her prior to the surgery and to be there during the surgery. So, uh, so so please be praying for us. We make that trip down to Houston, and be praying for my mother. She that she's strong and her body is able to endure what needs to be done. That it's a huge quality of life issue. We don't even have a choice on it. So here it is, scheduled in February. So that'll be coming up, and so that'll be in a couple weeks, and we'll keep you posted from there as to what's going on. All right. So Jubilees, chapter 14. It's a good evening, isn't it? And by the way, in our forecast coming up for Friday and Saturday, did you know it's supposed to snow? It's supposed to snow. We had snow on Shabbat. So it looks like we might have snow on Shabbat as well. Isn't that something? It's amazing that it'd be snowing in the wintertime. We haven't had a lot of snow this year, but yeah, that's coming up, and so it's going to be cold. Got another cold weekend up ahead of us. Oh, one other thing, just an update for everybody, is that the closing on Sandy's mother's house did not happen today. It was supposed to happen today, but the inspector chose not to go back and reinspect yesterday. For whatever reason, he didn't do it. So we had to push it back. So closing's going to be on Thursday. Oh, we're waiting? We're waiting to find out? Well, yeah, they let us know late that they weren't having it today. So look at that. Snowed in the Florida Panhandle. You think, what's it doing snowing in Florida? Is that supposed to do that? All right, let's go to Jubilees chapter 14. We've been going through uh, quite an adventure. We've been talking about Abraham, Abram, where well, let's see. Yeah, chapter 14 is where Yahweh appeared to him and said, fear not, Abram. I am your defender." This is verse 1. "And your reward will be exceedingly great." And that's when he comes out, and it goes along with the Torah, well, whatever Torah portion it was for Genesis chapter 15, Bereshit 15, and where he's complaining. He says, I don't have an heir to give my fortune to. I'm going to have to give it to this guy from Damascus. Not that he didn't like the guy, but nevertheless, he said, I'm supposed to be fruitful and multiply. That was the promise. What happened? So this is where we're at. That's where we left off. And so let's see. Let's go on a little bit. Well, let's pick up from verse 6. Well, verse 5, Yahweh says, "Hey, let's go outside, look at the heavens and number the stars if you're able to number them." And he looked towards heaven and beheld the stars, and he said unto him, "So shall your seed be." Well, there was a lot of stars, and that's what Yahweh said, and Abraham believed it. And of course, verse 6, and he believed in Yahweh, and it was counted to him for righteousness. But did you notice something about the wording there? It's not that he just believed Yahweh, he believed in Yahweh. So just understand there's a difference between believing Yahweh and believing in Yahweh. One is, okay, you said it, I believe it, it's done. Or believed in Yahweh and it's credited to him, or it was counted to him for righteousness. That's a big thing. Do we believe in Yahweh or we just believe him? Ponder that for a moment. A shower thought, so to speak. Okay, going on. "And he said unto him, I am Yahweh, that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you the land of the Kenaiim, to possess it forever. And I will be Elohim unto you and to your seed forever." And he said, "Yahweh, Yahweh, 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 whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it?" And he said unto him, "Take me a heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon." And he took all these in the middle of the month. And he dwelt in the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. Yeah. So, okay, so think about that. That's where we were. That's where we left off last time. And when did he do it? He did it in the middle of the month. And if you go back to chapter chapter 14, verse 1, it says, "After these things, in the fourth year of this week, on the new month of the third month, or the beginning of the month of the third month, the word of Yahweh came." So it's the third month. Now it's the 15th of the month. 15th of the month of the third month of the year. What day is that? Well, it would appear to me that it's Shavuot. So this is very significant that the covenant of the pieces takes place with Shavuot. I think it's very interesting. I think there's some depth that needs to be uncovered. We need to look at that. It's going to be a bigger study we need to do later on. All right, so and he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt in the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron, and he built there an altar, ugh, and sacrificed all these. And he poured their blood upon the altar, and he divided them in the midst, and laid them over against each other. But the birds divided he not. Hmm. So he built there an altar, and he sacrificed all these, and he divided them. Isn't that interesting? Because over in the Genesis account, it's like he takes them. We don't see anything about building an altar. It's just like he takes them, and it's like he lays them out, like making a path between them, as if it's on the ground. But in reality, thinking about this, it really does make sense that he built an altar. But he takes a heifer, a goat, a sheep, a turtle dove, and a pigeon, just like the account is, and those are some big animals. So he had to build up a large altar. Think about how large that altar would be to put two halves of a heifer up there, two halves of a sheep, two halves of a goat. And they would I would think that they would be as if, where you could, put them together and they form one. It's not like they're angled or anywhere, but they'd be divided there on the altar. Huh. Well, let's look at some more things. Are you thinking about this? Is this a moment? As if, well, how are you supposed to walk between the pieces if they're on the altar? That is the question. That's the question. Okay, verse 11. And he built there an altar and sacrificed. Okay, we read that. And uh, verse 12. And birds came down upon the pieces, and Avram drove them away and did not suffer the birds to touch them. And it came to pass that when the sun had set, that an ecstasy fell upon Avram. And lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said unto Avram, Know of a surety that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall bring them into bondage and afflict them 400 years. And the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge, and after that shall they come forth thence with much substance. And you shall go to your fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall return hither, for the iniquity of the Emorym is not yet full. Well, but in the fourth generation shall they shall return hither. Hither. That would be returned to the land. They were supposed to go back to the land like right away. But they didn't, did they? Like it took them 40 years, but they made it. All right, so wait a minute. So let's go back and look at this. And so we have this thing. Well, this is the same thing in terms of the Genesis account. So let's look at the Genesis account, because I believe some versions say that he was in a trance. And some versions say that he was in a deep sleep. And so I'm going to look it up in this version, in the New American Standard, see how they translated it over there in Genesis chapter 15. Same account that's going on. And it says, and when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Avram, and behold, terror was great. Behold, terror and great darkness fell upon him. So it says he went into a deep sleep. Here it says he went that an ecstasy fell upon him. Isn't that interesting? But more than anything, it's as if the presence, the power of God overwhelmed him. Oh, no, you might say he fell out in the spirit. You could say that, right? Because when one falls out in the spirit, sometimes they have no idea what's going on. But on the other hand, he's very much aware because he's listening to the voice of Yah. I'm telling him about his descendants who are going to go into bondage for 400 years, or they're going to go into bondage until 400 years from now. I mean, that's really how it should say. Okay, because that's very interesting to me. Let's go pick it up over to verse 17. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set, and there was a flame, and behold, a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. Okay, now in the Genesis account, it's as if, okay, he he falls in this state. Okay, let's just call it a state, not like the state of Texas or anything. Just a state, just a state. Okay, and he gets this word from Yahweh, and then and it came about when the sun had set, when it was very dark. This is verse 17 of Genesis chapter 15. And behold, there appeared a smoking oven, a flaming torch, which passed between these pieces. On that day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abraham. Okay, wait a minute. It doesn't say that he awoke, does it? It doesn't say that he awoke. It just says um, that these things happened. But in the Jubilees account, is that he awoke and from his sleep, and he sees the flame, and behold, a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. Now, isn't that cool? So it wasn't like in a vision. It wasn't like it's in a like a prophetic trance or anything like that. When he saw the fire by night. Because it said the sun went down, right? The sun had gone down. He saw the fire by night. I think that's amazing. A flame of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day, Yahweh cut a covenant with Avram, saying, to your seed will I give this land from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river, the river Parath. The Kenim, the Kenizzaim, the Kadmonim, the Perizim, and the Rephaim, and the Pakorim, and the Hivim, and the Emerim, and the Canaanim, and the Gergashim, and the Yuvasim, and the river, and the day passed, not the river passed, and the day passed, and Avram offered the pieces, and the birds, and the fruit offerings, and their drink offerings, and the fire devoured them. And on that day we cut a covenant with Avram, according as we had covenanted with Noah in the same month. Don't you think Yah likes anniversaries? This is an anniversary month because so if the covenant, just keep this in mind. Did we do that? Did we talk about that? That when Noah set up the altar after the flood, that it was on Shavuot, and now Avram on Shavuot has this covenant that's made, and on that day we cut a covenant with Avram according as we had covenanted with Noah in this month, and Avram renewed the feast and ordinance for himself forever. Wow. Wow. So That's really cool. So Avram it says renewed the feast. I'm telling you, anniversaries are important. We should celebrate y'all's anniversaries. I mean, if you didn't know, we don't substitute y'all's anniversaries and we don't write them off because they happen to be in the Old Testament. We celebrate them too because it's anniversary. Okay. Avram renewed the feast and the ordinance for himself forever. And Avram rejoiced and made all these things known to Sarai, his woman. And he believed that he would have seed, but she did not bear. And Sarai advised her man, Avram, and said unto him, go in unto Hagar, my Mitzri maid. It may be that I shall build up seed unto you by her. And Avram hearkened unto the voice of Sarai his woman, and said unto her, will do so. And Sarai took Hagar, her maid, the Mitzri, and gave her to Avram, her man, to be his woman. Uh-oh. So Avram married Hagar. Yeah, because we talked about that, didn't we? We did. We talked about how that is very, very important for us to recognize how when it says that someone is, if she's her, if she's his woman and he's her man, that means they're married. We did go over that. And he went unto her and he conceived and bore him a son, and he called his name Ishmael in the 5th year of this week. And this was the 86th year in the life of Avram. And that's just more of a soap opera, the soap opera of Avram's life. Yeah. I would say that probably was not a very smooth move. It was not the right move, right? We talk about that. Yeah, you jump the gun, but you'll bear an Ishmael. And what happens when you get Ishmael? Then you get 2026 and all sorts of stuff. All right. But nevertheless, in chapter 15, verse 1, and in the 5th year of the 4th week of this Jubilee, in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month. Wait a minute. It's an anniversary time again. Avram celebrated the feast of the first fruits of the grain harvest, and he offered new offerings on the altar, the first fruits of the produce unto Yahweh, a heifer and a goat and a sheep on the altar as a burnt offering, a burnt sacrifice unto Yahweh. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered upon the altar with frankincense. Yeah, and Yahweh appeared to Avram and said unto him, because it was an anniversary, he says, I like it when you recognize it's my special day and I get to be with you. Or you get to be with me because you chose to be with me because it's my special day. All right, verse 4, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you exceedingly. Well, we see some time that's gone by, isn't it? And Avram fell on his face, and Elohim talked with him and said, behold, my ordinance is with you, and you shall be the father of many nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Avram, but your name from henceforth, even forever, shall be Avraham. For the father of many nations have I made you, and I will make you very great, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come forth from you, and I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you throughout their generations for an eternal covenant, so that I may be an Elohim unto you and to your seed after you, and unto the land where you have been a sojourner, the land of Canaan, that you may possess it forever, and I will be their Elohim. Because the Canaanites are squatters. That's exactly right. And Yahweh said unto Avram, and as for you, do you guard my covenant, and you and your seed after you, and circumcise ye every male among you, and circumcise your foreskins, that it shall be a sign of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the child on the 8th day, he shall circumcise ye, not he. You, Avram, shall circumcise every male throughout your generations, him that is born in the house, or whom you've bought with money from any stranger whom you have acquired, who is not of your seed. So, yep, all the newborn baby boys, 8 days old. Why? Because it's the best day to do it. Just that's what they say in terms of that's the best day for the coagulation of the blood, all that. There's something medically proven that that's the best day for circumcision. And those whom you have bought with money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male, who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. Oftentimes when we think about that, then why did it go so long out there in the wilderness, right? I just think about that because they went 40 years and they until they entered into the land, till the second generation enter the land. That second generation just didn't get it. They didn't get it done. Even though Moses was required to have his two boys circumcised, well, his wife, quick to action. Oh, covenant of blood. And Elohim said unto Avram, as for Sarai your woman, her name shall no longer be called Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her and give you a boy by her, and I will bless him, and he shall become a nation, and kings of nations shall proceed from him. And Abraham fell on his face and rejoiced, and said in his heart, shall a son be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bring forth? And Abraham said unto Elohim, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And Elohim said, yeah, yea, 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 and Sarah also shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Itzhak. And I will establish my covenant with him, an everlasting covenant for his seed for after him. And as for Ishmael also, I've heard you. And behold, I'll bless him, and make him great, and multiply him exceedingly, and he shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will be established with Itzhak, whom Sarah shall bear to you in these days, and in the next year. And he left off speaking with him, and Elohim went up from Abram. And Abram did according as Elohim had said unto him, and he took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, whom he had bought with his money, and every male in his house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And on that selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and all the men of the house, and all those whom he had bought with money from the children of the stranger were circumcised with him. This Torah is for all generations forever. This Torah, this instruction is for all the generations forever. And there is no circumcision of the days, and no omission of the one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. And everyone that is born of the flesh, of whose foreskin is not circumcised on the 8th day, belongs not to be children of the covenant which Yahweh made with Abraham, but to the children of destruction. Nor is there moreovermore any sign on him that he is Yahweh's, but he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth and be rooted out of the earth, for he has broken the covenant of Yahweh Eloheinu. Okay, stop right there, because I got to get this in. And so this is why we have to understand that as a day as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. And what do we consider as the 8th great day, or the 8th millennium? Well, when we go back and we look in the book of Revelation, what happens in the new millennium, in the 8th millennium? So this is after the seventh day, the millennial reign of Messiah, is then we get 1,000 years of Messiah on the earth. Then we get the 8th great day. And what does the book of Revelation say about the 8th day? We got to go there. Let's check it out. It says in chapter 21, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth passed away, and there is no longer any sea. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from Yah, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. Okay, when does this all happen? It happens at the end of 7,000 years, in the beginning of the eighth millennium. And when that eighth millennium, it says, verse 7, he who overcomes shall inherit these things, and I will be his Elohim. I will be his God. I'll be his Yah, and he will be my son. But for the cowardly and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and immoral persons and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their part will be in the lake of fire, that lake that burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Okay. All right. So then we see this and we see that. In other words, when there's a new heaven and a new earth, those that are not circumcised on the eighth day are cut off forever. The purpose. Why do we get all of these different eights? All the different eights within scripture. It tells us something is coming, something's in the future. It's a new beginning. It's the start of the new era. It's the start when this world ends, the new world begins. It's after Hasatan is thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are also, and they're tormented day and night forever and ever, right? Okay, this is all the whole point. Abraham gets circumcised on the eighth. Well, every newborn baby so goes through 7 millennium or 7 days, 8 days, 1,000 years a day, and on the eighth day, the beginning of the eighth millennium, if they're not circumcised, they are cut off forever. Let that just sink in. We're getting closer and closer to that day. Well, we got 1,000 years more to go, but we're getting closer and closer to that. And you say, well, is this a physical circumcision? Well, I'm going to tell you this, that anybody that is without Yeshua is considered to be uncircumcised, right? So, because what we're looking at is that it's about the circumcision of the heart. It's a difference. Circumcision of the heart. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to our journey, because that's what it is. We're on a journey. This is a Bible study. This is a journey in what we call an extra biblical book, but everything that we see in here just seems to go right along with what the scriptures tell us. So therefore, when the book of Jubilees is referenced within the Brit Hadashah in the New Testament, then we should say, wonder why it was referenced. I wonder if it's considered authoritative, and why is it referred to? And if it's referred to, then why don't we look into it? Because so much that's part of our faith are embedded in these books, like the book of Enoch. We went through that whole adventure, called it an adventure, and we just kind of went through it verse by verse to dissect it and to look and see what it had to say about these things. So, all right. What an adventure. Where did I leave off? Verse 21, I did that one. Okay. And they went through all the circumcision. The verse 25, this Torah is for all generations. We read that. You need to mark that. Yeah. And no omission of one day out of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written in the heavenly tablets. Remember, this is a message that's been given to Moses. He's up on the mountain, and Jubilees is being given to him. So this is quite a reveal. Moses is getting this download as to what happened in the past. It's as if Says it's like he's watching the movie of life, but from the first hand, um, the first person of Yahweh speaking to him about it. I like that. All right, here we go. Let's look at it a little bit further. And everyone that is born, the flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised on the eighth day, belongs not belongs not to the children of the covenant which Yahweh made with Aram, but to the children of destruction, the eighth day, the lake of fire. All right, that's essentially what it says. We just read it over in the book of Revelation. All right. So, nor is there, moreover, any sign on him that he is Yahweh's, but he is destined to be destroyed. Ooh. No, nor is there, moreover, any sign on him that he is Yahweh. Well, then who does he belong to? Yeah, destruction. But he is destined to be destroyed and slain from the earth and to be rooted out of the earth. Man, I mean, if you can't say you're to be destroyed from the earth in more than one way, when it says it in multiple ways, I think Yahweh really means it. Children of destructions, slain from the earth, destroyed and slain from the earth, rooted out of the earth. Uh, yeah, for he's broken the covenant Yahweh Eloheinu. I mean, it's a choice. Really, it is a choice. Choose you this day whom you'll serve. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. We shall serve Yahweh. For all the angels of the presence and all the angels of sanctification. We went through that in the book of Enoch, if you remember. Well, who the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctification are. So to have been so created from the day of their creation and before the angels of the presence and the angels of sanctifications, he was sanctified. He has sanctified Israel before. Do you see that? Before, from the day of their creation and before the angels of the presence and the angels of the sanctification, he was sanctified, or he has sanctified Israel. It seems that he had already designated Israel prior to even the creation of the angels. Isn't that something? Part of Yahweh's master plan, mapped out in the heavenlies, where he goes up and he tells Abraham, I want you to go up there and I want you to look at the sky and look at all the stars because you're going to see the outline of what shall we say, all the stars within the 12 different constellations. Each constellation fits with a particular month of the year, and each constellation is going to be designated for each of the 12 sons of Jacob, who is also Israel. And Abraham would look up there and say, wow, there's my sons. They're all identified up there. They all have meaning. That they should be with him and with his holy angels. So wait a minute. Whoa. And so before the angel of presence and the angel of sanctification, he has sanctified Israel that they should be with him and with his holy angels. So that's pretty cool. Like one big family, one big happy family joined together. And do you command the children of Israel and let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance, and they will not be rooted out of the land? It's not only that they're going to be there's destruction, but they won't be rooted out of the land if they hold to these covenant promises. But you think about what happened to the northern kingdom, and they were taken out of the land. They were rooted out of the land, and the same thing with the southern kingdom, Judah. They were rooted out of the land. So it makes me think: were they still being circumcised? Did they start avoiding and not renewing the covenant, making sure the boys were circumcised? For the command is ordained for a covenant, and they should observe it forever among all the children of Israel for Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and Esau. Why is he talking about Esau? Esau's not even born. Huh. Yahweh did not cause. Oh, wait. For Ishmael and his sons, and his brothers and Esau, Yahweh did not cause to approach him, and he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose Israel to be his people. And he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst the children of men. For there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his, and over all has he placed Ruachot, or spirits, in authority to lead them astray from him. Oh. Huh. Okay. Yeah, because if you are not of Abraham, then what happens? It says that he's assigned, that he placed Ruach spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. Well, that doesn't seem fair, does it? I mean, think about that. But we also know that we are allowed to be grafted in, whether one is a descendant of Israel, and we're not talking about one tribe, we're talking about 12 tribes that were scattered, dispersed around the world. Okay. Um, but if one is cut off from Israel, cut off from the vine, this Paul talks about this. Shaul, he says that 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 one that is the natural branch that's cut off, um, then how readily will it be grafted back in? Or he talks about the wild branch that is grafted back in, but he says how much more the natural branches. So in other words, this vine got its limbs cut off, all because of the exile, got rooted up, so to speak, and then are allowed to be brought back in. But the thing is remember that the covenant with Israel is for the whole world. It is for the whole world, but we have to be grafted in. This doesn't mean it, or I'm not going to get a whole theological debate, but you understand what I'm saying. There's no debate. There's no debate. Is that how are we grafted back in? It's because of Yeshua, because he shed his blood. He became, shall we say, the covenant of the pieces. He's the one that said, well, if Israel breaks the covenant, and because Abraham was not able to participate in the walking between the pieces, he wasn't able to do that. So Yahweh took the responsibility of both Abraham's side and Yahweh's side. And so when Abraham's descendants broke the covenant, then it obligated Yahweh then to suffer the consequences of breaking that covenant. And that was Yeshua, who shed his own blood for the sake of the covenant in order to graft us back in, whether we accept it or not. If we accept it and allow the circumcision of our hearts, then we don't experience the downside of the eighth great day. We experience the glorious return and living in eternity with the Most High. And by the way, it breaks the power of the evil spirits who've been given authority over those of us who don't believe. Those that don't believe, guess what? You're led astray by evil spirits. And I'm going to tell you, most religions in the world believe in evil spirits, but there's only one faith in all of the world that has the remedy to be set free from those evil spirits that lead us astray. So, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may guard them and bless them, that they may be his, and that he may be theirs from henceforth forever. And now I announce unto you that the children of Israel will not guard true to this ordinance. Man, see, I told you. We're talking about that. They're not going to hold true, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all of this Torah, all of this instruction. For in the flesh of their circumcision, they will omit the circumcision of their sons, and all of them, sons of Belial, will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from Yahweh against the children of Israel, because they have forsaken his covenant and turned aside from his word and provoked and blasphemed, inasmuch as they do not observe the ordinance of this Torah. For they have treated their members like the other people, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land. And there will no more be pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sins of this eternal error. So it's eternal error to have an uncircumcised heart. And I know they're talking about the circumcision of the flesh for a male member, but just it is about the circumcision of the heart. That's what Jeremiah talks about, and so it, really that goes along with that stony heart. Chapter 16. Hey, we're moving right along. We got through a whole chapter in the last part of 14. So, and we still have time to jump into 16. So, verse 1. And on the beginning of the month of the 4th month, he appeared unto Abraham at the oak of Mamre, and he talked with him, and he announced to him that a son would be given to him by Sarah, his woman. And Sarah laughed, for she heard that he had spoken these words with Abraham. And he admonished her, and she became afraid and denied that she had laughed on account of the words. And we told her the name of her son. And we told her the name of her son, and his name is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets. That is Itzhak. See, which means he laughs, right? I think that's what it means. And that when we return to her at a set time, she would have conceived a son. And in this month, Yahweh executed his judgments on Sodom and Amorah, so that's Sodom and Gomorrah, and Seboim, and all the region of the Yarden, all the region of the Jordan. And he burned them with fire and brimstone and destroyed them until this day. Even as lo, I have declared unto you all their works, that they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornication in their flesh, and work uncleanness on the earth. And in like manner, Elohim will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanness of the Sodomim, the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. But Lot we saved, for Elohim remembered Abraham and sent him out from the midst of the overthrow, and he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, and as had not been on the earth since the day of Adam until this time, for the man lay with his daughters. Man, it's like it said it never happened before. Okay, so Moses gets this message on the mountain from Yahweh and said, what Lot did with his daughters never happened on earth up to this point in time. And you're like, no. I don't know, I just read it. That's what it said. And he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till this time. For the man lay with his daughters, and behold, it was commanded and engraven concerning all his seeds on the heavenly tablets, to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no seed of the man on earth on the day of condemnation. Right? Like, anybody wonder what happened to the Moabites? Yeah. What happened to the Moabites? It's like they've disappeared in history. What happened to them? Well, no more Lot. Lot. And in this day, or in this month, Abraham moved from Hebron and departed and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur in the mountains of Gerar. In the middle of the 5th month, he moved from thence, dwelt at the well of the oath. And in the middle of the 6th month, Yahweh visited Sarah and did unto her as he had spoken, and she conceived. Middle of the 6th month, which would mean 9 months later would be the middle of the 3rd month that Yitzhak would be born, which would be Shavuot, an anniversary day. We'll get there. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? Do you realize how much would be going on in Sarah? Like this rejuvenation going on in Sarah to prepare her womb to be able to house a child? Wow. I know, seriously, Tammy. Yeah, it's we've been told by the rabbis it's Pesach. And that's why it's like, why is someone trying to redirect us? I mean, we've been taught that for years in Hebrew roots, and here Jubilees contradicts that. And so, one of the things we need to look at the narrative, look at the narrative. But he was visited in the 4th month at the Oak of Mamre, which we've been talked about. It was on the 3rd day after circumcision that they were visited by had the 3 visitors, and so that's what the beginning of chapter 16 is talking about. Well, it says, and we remember I emphasize that we and so we always look at one of those as Yeshua, and he had 2 companions, and then they went on to Lot, but it didn't go into details about Lot because this is about Abraham. This is about the circumcision. This is about the covenant. And right, see, the rabbis have purposefully convoluted the scriptures. They changed things within the scriptures in the Masoretic text. They've changed things in there, and we've only, because of modern translations, because of archaeology, because of the Dead Sea Scrolls, because of other findings, we've actually gone back and looked at the original writings that somehow have been preserved for all these thousands of years and say, wait a minute, the Masoretic text out of the 9th and 10th century uh, changed some things. They deleted some things. It caused, and it's caused confusion. It caused cloudiness, and you really have to dig in some more to really pull out the thing. And why would they do that? Why would to find the truth? It's not. So you have to realize that the scripture is very clear. Isn't it amazing that the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, can still speak to us in spite of the convoluted text from the the Masoretes that our English translations come from? But nevertheless, when we can back check it with, even from these what we call extra biblical books and the apocryphal books, we can look at it and say, wait a minute, we can see, did something get changed? That's why the Greek Septuagint, the Greek version of the Old Testament, is oftentimes worthy to go back and to study, because the Greek translated directly from the Hebrew, and if you know which Greek words correspond with particular Hebrew words, then you can actually find out exactly what the text means as well. And then you can find out that the Masoretic text, that was, how many centuries later, when it was written down, that they purposely changed it, but it was preserved in the Greek. See, Yahweh always has a backup plan. Isn't it amazing? And yet he'll still cause a discovery like 1948 when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and an amazing discovery to know that there's more to the story. In the middle of the verse 11, in the middle of the 5th month, he moved from thence and dwelt at the well of the oath. And in the middle of the 6th month, Yahweh visited Sarah and did unto her as he had spoken, and she conceived, and she bore a son. When did she do it? In the 3rd month and in the middle of the month. at the time in which Yahweh had spoken to Abraham on the feast of the first fruits of the harvest, which is Shavuot, Yitzhak was born. And Abraham circumcised his son on the 8th day, and it says he was the first that was circumcised according to the covenant, which is ordained forever. And in the 6th year of the 4th week, we came to Abraham, to the well of the oath. And we appeared unto him, as we had told Sarah, that we should return to her, and she would have conceived a son. And we returned in the 7th month, and found Sarah with child before us, and we blessed him. And we announced to him all the things which had been decreed concerning him, and that he should not die until he had beget 6 sons more. What? And he had beget 6 sons more, and should see them before he died. All right, now we got to look at some things, because like, oh, he only had 2 sons. So how would you number 6 sons before he died, that he saw before he died? How does that fit? There's more. There's got to be more. What's Jubilees telling us? Not that I'm looking for contradictions, but I'm trying to look at, well, maybe there's some things of the picture, this big puzzle that we've missed. We haven't even recognized there's missing pieces. The other 6 were with Keturah. But that was Abraham, not Yitzhak. That in Yitzhak should his name and seed be called. Well, we're out of time. There's more to find out about this story, and I can't wait till we get back together next time to see how it unfolds. But I hope you enjoyed the journey like I did today, because I got to think about some things like I hadn't thought about before. Like the altar. Isn't that something? The altar that Abraham built an altar and laid the pieces out. Well, it would make sense. I mean, that's where you would torch the sacrifice. But nevertheless, that's something else. We'll see you next time. This is John Craig. Shalom for Walking Spirit and Truth.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.